can see my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so can someone tell me what do they feel about interaction? What is interaction? Any idea?
Yeah, I think engaging the customer, communicating and engaging the customer is what I understand as interaction, right?
Some part of it, yes, communicating is a part of interaction, but communication is just one part of it. Okay.
Engaging, you engage him, somehow you must respond. Not only we talk, but he should also talk. I mean, that's my.
Sir,
yeah, but that again, you are localizing it to the context of communication.
Interaction,
Yeah.
interaction is first to make him understand that our product is useful for him. That starts the interaction. He has a need, I have a product, both can match together, so his need can be taken care of by my product. So with that, the interaction starts. We highlight the point why this product could be good for him and why it could be relieving his pain point. So that way the interaction starts.
Okay.
Customer interaction, sir.
Yeah,
Basically, customer interaction is the process in which we identify the what problem we are trying. We will solve the customers. Customer open up their pains and needs and gain. So the basic purpose of customer interaction is to just get the input, their pain, gain, and what things they want to be done.
Okay. Okay. So sit tight for the next 1.5 hours to have a very different aspect of interaction. So interactions, like you guys said, some part of it is you have mentioned, some part of it I'll cover. But yes, interactions, are everywhere, whether it is your customer, whether it is your employee or organization, whether it is at home, everywhere. So now every entrepreneur starts, no entrepreneur starts thinking that they will make a bad product it does not sell. We always think that I'm going to make the product, and as we get first 2 customers, we get this euphoria feeling ki now ab hum duniya jeet jayenge. And then what we want exactly is that we want our interactions to create happy ripples. We want that it should perpetuate, and there should be word of mouth, and everybody should talk about our product and service, and they should go gaga about it. But actual data doesn't reflect that. What happens is, as you start growing, as you start deploying, as you start seeing, the real data says the feel good interaction comes, but then they say customer 1 says I'm happy, but customer 2 might say you promised, and then customer 3 might say where can I find XYZ. So the real world it operates in a very different aspect of than what we actually expect it to be. And the reason is not that you create bad systems or bad interaction dynamics. The reason is because we don't design our companies, our products, or services is very fluid, which is very interactive enough. What do I mean by that? I'll come to that. Okay. So let's look at some cartoons before we go there, right? So here there are 2 cartoons, and this is, happy anniversary, sir. We launched our app, funeral as a service. And obviously this is an inappropriate interaction because the couple is celebrating their anniversary. And there are other type of interactions, like where you have not done your market research, and now the manager or the CEO is shouting out that, do you want to buy a product? And that is like a one-way broadcast. Even if it is a one-way broadcast, still it is a form of a interaction, because every interaction, whether one-way, two-way, will leave you with certain emotional state of feeling also. Guys, I see some background noise. Okay. Then this is very typical today. We have automation without empathy. Customer is stuck and you say, can someone help me? I am stuck, and all I hear is a company policy. And the person says that, sorry, sir, We appreciate your patience. We're digging into big data. In the meantime, you can ask our bot anything. So, which actually also means that having automation is not everything. Customer interaction is far deeper. What it is, we'll come to it. And this is another classic one where the person says, our gamification is fantastic. We have made some metrics, but now you're seeing that you're losing more customers than before. So what essentially what we are driving to say here is that, interactions, no matter how much you plan, technically they are actually unplanned. Why? Because the real world dynamic does not work in a linear way. There's a non-linear functionality to it. Hold on, there's an animation here. So I'm minimizing this for a second. So typically interactions everywhere are happening everywhere. So right from whether you discover, whether you are in a discovery stage of your problem statement, where you apply principles of design thinking, primary research, ethnography study, persona analysis, and you're creating a product and interacting with customers, from A/B testing, prototyping, co-create, product advisory council, go to market, or while you're communicating what your product is all about, that is the benefit, sales playbook, testimonials, stories, total cost of ownership, ROI calculators, to value capture. But what I am trying to cover today is I am making, because interaction is a very big topic, what we are going to focus is in point 5, okay, and point 6. Point 5 assumes that you already have done your customer is onboarded. Okay, so your customer is onboarded, and now we are going to design interactions for them. So how many of you actually are already aware of design thinking, and you know that what is design thinking and what are the process of design thinking? Do all of you know?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so have you guys been taught about how to do market research, find product, do value discovery and all?
Bit.
Hello?
But we have been taught, and means for my case, I know what how to do the customer discovery and all.
So you have done the customer discovery and all, right?
Yeah, I have done with 30 customers.
Yes, we have been taught in this climate session only.
Okay, so because so I will not go back there. So let's say you assume that you have the customer, or okay. So how does it work? This can you design interactions? And the answer is yes. So let's visualize an interaction first. Let's visualize an interaction like a filmmaker, scene by scene. So visualize this experience. This is a real experience happened by an executive who we put it on LinkedIn because he had ordered food from Zomato. So please read it for 1 minute, and then let's visualize what happened here. Can you see the screen, or should I maximize it?
We can see.
Okay.
Yeah, we seen it in LinkedIn actually once.
Okay, very good. Now, so everybody is done reading it?
Yes.
Yeah, we are done.
So can you explain me the experience? What has happened here?
While they understanding the real story, you become very empathetic.
No, that is good. You have become empathetic. The customer was empathetic. That is good. But you guys are trying to open your startups, or you have already opened a startup. So act like founders and CEOs. So now what? You are the founder of Zomato. You come across this. What is your first reaction?
I will identify the issue, like they should not be late because he's delivering in bicycle. That is the biggest trouble. That's why he's getting late. And anyhow, the time is precious for everybody, especially when hunger is there. So that bicycle should be replaced and should be given with a good vehicle for delivery.
Okay. Now, okay. But what if you don't have the budget for motorcycle?
Then that should be like updated. Probably it should be an option that in app only it should be mentioned that these kind of, like, you will be delivered by bicycle, so it may take little longer.
Okay. Now
So
this
that-
is one of the scenarios, which happened, right?
Mhm.
But if you imagine, there can be million such scenarios. Yes or no?
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe.
So the thing is, now comes the real world picture, right? That if there can be a lot of combinations, obviously we can't address all. Can we make a framework to design our systems which are resilient to this kind of interaction? So we'll come
Yeah,
to
we
study
can-
this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there is actually, but I don't know why how it come, because they in the Zomato onboarding employees on delivery boys onboarding, they're asking for the availability of bike actually.
Yeah, but that is on the onboarding, no? My bike can have breakdown also. I can sell my bike also.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
the world is not in a static sense, right? I mean, for example, you make a business model, right? Business
Yeah,
model
correct.
is a living document. It is a dynamic thing which changes over a period of time. It evolves.
Mm-mm.
So your systems have to evolve, otherwise they decay. So
What I feel, sir, like there should be no gaps between expectations and reality. If I'm promising and somebody is expecting the food between 30 minutes, then it should be delivered within 30 minutes, right?
no, very
So
good. But how?
so like one should be checking if you are promising, and if you are not sure it will be delivered in 30 minutes, you should at least convey that it will take
Mhm.
this much time.
That is
So
good. That is very good. What you have said. In fact, I will put that. I'll cover that a little later. But the question is, what I'm trying to say is, okay. Let's say you have got this situation. Looking at this situation, can you design their system how it must be today? This is just a small 5 or 10 sentences in a paragraph. Through these 10 sentences, can you make a blueprint of Zomato? That what is happening?
yeah, of course, like they are providing jobs to needy people, first thing, and they can take it as a promotional thing that we are helping people, though they are not having enough
No.
resources. Then also
The problem is not solved. The problem is still there. What I'm trying to say is, providing jobs to needy people is not the problem we're addressing here. The problem what we're trying to address here is that the food got delayed. There can be innumerable reasons for food to be delayed. Lot of
Yeah,
variables
we-
can come to picture.
Sir,
what may be done is
we can dev.
okay.
Fahad, you can go.
Okay. Thank you. What can be done is we can have the cycle option also, so that executive can be only allocated nearby places.
No, I'm not talking about the option right now. I'm talking about, can you design a
Sir,
system from
Sir,
looking at
Nikhil
this?
sir.
How?
We can create a system which provides the order on the basis of vehicle they have. So suppose for bicycle, they will put a radius of 5 kilometers. For motorcycle, they will put the radius of 15 kilometers. So on
Very
the
good.
basis of vehicles the delivery boys has, they will alter their ordering system, and they provide orders to those guys. So the order will be delivered on time and customer won't get irritated.
So
And,
how many people are there in this system? What is it in this story? how many people are there?
There are 3 variables, and you actually need to create a flowchart to match those 3 variables. So there's
What
a
are the 3
supply.
variables?
There's the restaurant, which is and then there's the supply chain, the person who's carrying the order on cycle, and there is the customer on the delivery part. So the supply chain can create a framework where the deliveries are set according to the vehicle or the nature of the supply chain. And based on that, you can create a structure on how the deliveries can be streamlined so they're not delayed. So in
Okay.
case there
So
is someone,
you've gone into a little bit more depth, which is very good. Instead of a flow chart, we will do something very different, because actually flow charts don't work in the real world. And I'll come to know, I'll explain you in the little bit more time, but you are on the right track. But there are not 3, there are even more. Some of them are hidden here. And this is a insight of a leader, that how do you find the hidden one? So we'll come to that. So typically what happens is, no matter what you have, what product service you have, you have a business model, you have a go-to market, and then you have a sales team, and then they're either selling or they're using the product, and there's certain expectation, like one of you said, there's an expectation that is set. And if that expectation is not met, there's a disorder in the behavior line. So if I capture the behavior line as kya hua in any complaint or in any feedback, it can be a good feedback also. It is talking about certain interactions and events. Okay, I did this, then I did this, and then this happened, and then this person told me this. ऐसे ही होता है ना? But internally, those events are mapped to certain patterns, and those certain patterns are mapped to certain structures, and those structures are mapped to certain mental model. So we will come to that. So how does that work? So what could have been better, is today. And keep in mind, when organizations hit a wall, they either do the more of the same thing, or even any leader in the world, or they do less of the same thing. Very rarely do we find people doing different things. Now this looks good on as a saying, but how do you translate it? We'll come to it in the practical terms as we move forward. So what is interaction, guys? Interaction is between people, one to one, one to many, many to many, many to one. It is a loop. Even if it is open-ended, it is still a loop. Let's say even if I broadcast, it is still a two-way interaction. Why? Because every intent will have a response, whether negative, positive. It may not be verbal, not be language. It can still be may not be value-based, but it will still have an emotional response. So there is an experience, there is a behavior loop, and there is an experience. The problem what happens is, when we have a very linear view of the world, input, process, output, or let's say the flow chart model, and then we try to measure some matrices, we unfortunately are not able to capture for the hidden interactions. So someone of you right now said that the expectation, if it is greater than the perceived performance, definitely it is low satisfaction. If there is low satisfaction in the interaction, and interaction is about the product, its value, its service, you will not have word of mouth. You will not, your brand image can suffer, the product loyalty can suffer, and that can create a churn rate, higher churn rate. It can create or drop rate, or it can also create butterfly effect of more people not coming to your platform because of word of mouth or a negative response. So perceived value has a direct correlation with your interaction dynamics. But what is this interaction dynamics we have been talking about for the past 10 minutes? Right? So we will be coming now and going deeper into it. Typically what happens is, let's say when you lose customers, unknowingly, no entrepreneur wants to build, actually most entrepreneurs, I'll not say no, but most entrepreneurs don't want to build products or services that don't work. Everybody wants to create a good product or a good service. They want to have ripples of happiness spread out. But because of unknowing direct interactions, for example, that Zomato case, that customer was empathetic. If he or she would not have been empathetic, Zomato, they could have lost one customer there, and he or she would have complained to 5 more people, creating more problems. So what happens is, when you lose customers, you don't have to grow at a X rate, you have to grow at a compounding rate. So if if you grow 20% and you lose 15% of your customers, you don't grow at 35% rate, but at a compounding rate, you have to grow at 41%. So suddenly your number has doubled from 20 to 41 just because of certain hidden variables. Some of them are called interaction. And definitely, if you look at the left-hand side, you realize no matter how beautiful products and services you create, people's memory is short term. And this is not because of their fault. It is very, out of 10 customers, you would have noticed in the real world, only 1 or 2 might recommend your product, even if 10 like it. Okay. But guys, don't do crosstalk if I am speaking, otherwise you will lose the context. Okay. But if you realize, if anything bad happens, for example, if anything bad has happened to you in your customer experience, how many of you have ever lost your cool with the call center or a customer support or a customer experience anywhere?
Many times.
Yeah, many times.
Exactly. And you always remember it. It is totally crystal clear what happened if I ask you. But if I ask you what are the good features in that product, you might not even recollect. And this is exactly what this left side graph is saying, that positive intuition is very less and positive accuracy is also less. But a negative accuracy is far more higher, and it is also amplified because your parasympathetic nervous system, with your fight, fear, flee response is activated. Evolutionarily, we are geared to remember negative experiences far more because it is like a threat to us. That is the reason it has a 20x virality at the minimum, the quotient. So here, just back here, I just said that you might lose and you have to grow to 41%. But in reality, if one customer goes, he will actually make the TAM leak, total addressable market leak, by another 5 more customers. So this will have a butterfly effect. This will not even be 41. This might be at least even 200, 300%. And that is how problematic negative responses are. But the problem is, how do we interact? How do we design systems for negative response? For this, the first thing you have to let go is measurement is deterministic. We all love numbers and we always want to be deterministic. You have to open up to a world of probabilistic. Okay, and how probable and possible different scenarios can be. But how do you plan for them? Because like we discussed right now, 60% of the interactions are hidden and they lead to 74% of drop rate. And then we just look at some of the events and we try to decode what has happened in the world or what has happened in our company or what has happened with the customer and try to capture it. So what are hidden interactions? Now, I said that there are not 3 people involved there because the 4th one was the machine. And by machine, I don't mean the warehouse one, I mean the app. Okay. So there was also the app. And I right now, for simplicity, I have merged Zomato and the app into one. Actually, app is a separate ecosystem you can consider. So interactions don't happen with people. It also happens with the touch points, which are used to give those experiences. Because customers can reach your call center, that is one touch point. They can interact with your chat bot. They might also interact with your app if you have an app or a website. Now, let's say your website only does not open, or there is a loading problem, or you can't find anything on your site. It's very dirty, clutter. Do you guys like a site or an app which hangs? Tell me. Do you guys like it or you hate it?
Hate it, obviously.
So that means you cannot design experiences just with people into perspective. Anything that has to be translate into creation of value, no matter what the touch point, whether it is people, whether it is a process, or whether it is to be a machine, has to be considered as part of interaction design. So interactions are dynamic, they're non-linear, and interactions have a property. They start very simple. So let's say you design a system, you will realize they're very stable. A certain variable can but cross a complete instability and chaos of the system. You look at what happened in Afghanistan, right? I mean, within a matter of few weeks, the everything is just wiped out, and the Taliban has taken over. It is not because it was linear. It is because there are multiple variables interacting at local level, at lot of systems, and at those local levels, things were changing drastically. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that interaction and dynamic, they're never linear. And even a small change in one thing, for example, 1% change in sales or revenue can have a butterfly effect on how you are going to survive as a company in the future. We'll design it. So now let's think about interactions, what happened in Zomato's case again. If I break it down, the person called, and below is the behavior line. I ordered food, then I was expecting something. 15 minutes ho gaye, then 20 minutes, another 20 minutes. I lost my cool. In the meantime, I could have called the customer representative also. I could have called or no. Usne to cycle dekhi, but other customer could have called the customer representative. Yes or no?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Then the third customer could have called not the customer representative, but the delivery boy and shouted yes or no.
Yes.
And the fourth one could have also done called him plus the restaurant also. Someone would have cancelled. Someone would have had different types of behavior. So, can you map customer behaviors to an experience table? And every experience is like an event. Okay. And there are some bigger experience is broken into small experiences through events. So if you look at the first, now we're trying to design a basic thing, right? Let's say you are the entrepreneur, you want to design your experiences. So there is an event is hungry. Now now let's say you are a food app here. If you're a food company, we'll also take a physical example. Abhi hum ek online wala example le rahe. Let's say if you're a food company, and if someone is hungry, what is the metric you would want to achieve? That he or she should open your app. Yes or no?
Yes.
That is the first metric that you should calculate, right? That if a person is hungry and I am Zomato, he should not think about Swiggy, he should not think about Uber Eats. Hello? Yeah. And he or she should open our app. Now, once they open the app, will you set a metric that app should open in 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds, or the app should open in 2 seconds or 2 minutes? Would there be a metric?
Yes.
So that metric is again a value, and it should display accurate preferences. And then we can also measure by looking at A/B testing or giving it to some people to play with and see how their reaction and responses are. What is their emotional narration of it? Whether they're smiling, whether they're curious. So let's say I'm hungry and I open the app. If you realize, if I'm hungry, I open the app, and when I open the app, I search for food. When I search food, I order food, and I can design for each intervention stage, I can define my expectation, and I can even track what actually happened on the ground. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. But I said one thing, their systems are not linear. They are non-linear. So you have to also cater into consideration, which as we come on later on, how do we address non-linearity here? So we'll come there, but I'm just trying to go slow, step by step. So one thing we have understood is that interactions are not conversations. Interactions are complex social engagement dynamics. And it is derived from a field called system dynamics. So interactions can happen within a system, and it can happen outside a system, or within a system, within the subsystems. Now, if you look at in Zomato case, can we break the Zomato story into subsystems? So what were the subsystems in that story?
The
Or let's
restaurant,
say,
the delivery, and the app.
very good, very good. So every subsystem, if you break it down, has to be mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. It's called MEES, which caters to the complete journey of the customer, complete interaction journey, right? See your product to till they use your product to return if they want to return or cancel to everything. And none of the subsystems should overlap because they are independent in each other, yet they are dependent and they have interaction among each other. So let's say you break down into your systems and like and systems. If I just break it down into an app or delivery or customer, it is like putting all the parts. But if they don't interact, then some of all the parts don't make a car. If I put all of these parts and I say this is a car, will you buy this car?
No, definitely.
No, right? So you were saying it doesn't work because, and if you realize what the business models also you would have made something like this. What people want, what is the value and the USP? Yes, what channels are there, and then how am I going to supply them? But what you would have not done, and that is a very oversimplified, glorified way of two-dimensional representation of anything. But that does not actually encapsulate the beauty of the real world dynamics. So, like someone said, right? So you're correct. So visualize the system into subsystems. They can be food. They can be here. The food app. There is customer. There is the restaurant, and there is the delivery. And obviously, they have multiple interactions here. In fact, I have not put all just so that not to confuse, but customer can talk to the restaurant, customer can talk to the delivery, the restaurant can talk to the customer, the restaurant can talk to a delivery, or the food app. I mean the Zomato in this case, or the delivery boy can talk to the customer, and so there are combinations that can be formed, and each one has a free flow interaction and can talk to each other. So now if you have to consciously design a system, it is not like we will have we will list the restaurant, we will list their photos, we will list their prices, or ये app में click करेगा और order हो जाएगा, package आएगा and delivery हो जाएगा. No, you have to design for excellence, which actually means is you have to design interactions. So our trigger was hunger. Guys, पहली बात बताओ, मजा आ रहा है, right? You guys are enjoying this?
Yes,
Yes, yes.
absolutely.
Yes, sir. Maja.
Okay, so there's a trigger that is hungry, and then what is the intent? You want to eat food. So your main event is going to be, what is the main event? Order food, and then they will have certain sub events and interactions which can translate into a story and experience. If the story is bad, it will create 20x times network virality, because I told you that network experiences are evolutionarily designed by us, by nature, for us to remember and have a strong response against. So obviously we discussed that I am hungry, I open the app. So there's an event, cause and effect relationship, and then there's an expected response, and I can design at every stage what should be the expected response in terms of metric of measurement of value, and then in terms of emotional mood and story narration on the right hand side. And if you see anywhere, let's say if I open the app and I search food, we'll look at the second row, and it says in 200 milliseconds it should show me pre-search options, it should show me trends, and maybe even my last whatever I have ordered. But if the loading happens and it says a screen is loading and it hacks, suddenly you feel agitated because you have a strong urge to order food because you are hungry. So when you're designing about interaction experiences, you have to look at possibilities of failure, possibilities of how the customer are going to interact with the system, and create interaction space. An interaction space is, can a person open the app to open search for food? Or it could be that he doesn't know, she doesn't search food, they directly order food. That could also happen because they themselves know, they can see from the previously order. Or they might not want to order food, they just want to recommend it to someone and share. Or they might want to do some other things. So can we encapsulate all their experiences, whether on the app or whether in the physical store? And it all can be done. So typically interaction is a multi-way stimulus. And by the way, I'll even show you some software tools, let's say in the digital world, how we do it. So multi-way stimulus response, which can be open or ended loop. Forget the definition, but what you have to remember is these keywords. So it's a multi-way stimulus. It can be one way, two way, many way. It can be open or closed ended loop, but it has a very important thing that it should satisfy an intent. So there is an intent, which is actually what is expected. And the satisfaction is the interaction dynamic process, the journey, which creates an action, certain actions for a journey to take place, which will translate into experience. So all of these variables if I look into an interaction, how do they actually compete? So looking at the definition, the essential elements is, I've added something 2 extra, which is on pink, one is a cue. Cue means an external trigger. Let's say मुझे भूख लगी, फिर मैंने app open किया, and then I did certain actions, let's say, and then there has been a certain interaction, and there can be external force also. So in this case, the external force was that person had lost his job, or he was working 2 jobs because of COVID. Other external force could be कि उसका tire puncture हो जाता. The third external force could be it was raining और उसको चोट लग गई, गड्ढे में गिर गया. हो सकता है कि नहीं हो सकता? So there can be some external forces, and then there is an intent, and that intent has to satisfy certain values. So what are those value prepositions? And how are you, and how that emotional response actually satisfies to create experience. So why this interaction dynamics is important is, I'll come back to a guy in 1970. There's a chemist called Ilya Prigogine, and Ilya Prigogine won Nobel Prize for something in thermodynamics, which is called energy flow. And what he said is something which is applicable. He said deterministic systems or Newtonic mathematics actually measures like KPIs and matrices only certain states of stability, but what they don't cover, an equilibrium. What they don't understand is, and they work well for those measurements. You want to reduce weight, so you can have a metric, say that I eat less food, I eat more protein, I do more exercises, and ratio of exercises and that can and I measure those variables and how much weight do I lose. But there can be a behavioral flow. It is just not the final variables which can tell me that my emotional state, psychological state, metaphysical state, all of that can have a interaction dynamics with how my metabolism works, how I think, how strong is my motivation, how my brain is coping, how my muscle memory is coping, and how do I function. So he said, so I know this sounds a little complicated, but it is not. So then what he said is, everything is nothing but a system and network of systems. And can you look at the patterns and structures and understand the flow in them, like what we're trying to do right now here. Now, looking at this concept, there is something that he came up to being and tried and said that, and that there is something called determinism, absolute, which we say input process output, which is something like a causality, right? That cause and effect. ऐसा हुआ, मैंने बॉल ऊपर फेंकी तो नीचे आएगी. That is determinism. We know the force of gravity, we know the mass, and we can detect that. Okay, good. Then on the right hand side, there are some statistical systems which have got billions of variables. For example, heat transfer. how heat transfers between one atom to the another. Okay, in one when you heat, that interaction looks complex, but again that can be measured. The funniest thing is, the most complex systems are not the ones which actually are on the right hand side, but which are in the middle. They don't have, they might have little bit many, they might have 10 variables, 20, 30, 40. But as they start interacting, they cause infinite amount of combinations that can arise out. So let's say whether you're talking about birth of stars, to climate weather prediction, to evolution, to your human body, which has got 11 systems into it, from muscular system, you know, to skeleton system, so to nervous system. So the 11 systems in our body, and then there are interactions happening at every cellular level. So even if when they interact, that interaction becomes too complex. So let's put a very simple example to understand it a little bit more. So let's say we design a system, and we say that you know, this is a very simple example. Let's say we open more McDonald's. More McDonald's open, more profit. Let's say people love French fries. Now there's no harm in having French fries or having McDonald's if you're doing it once in a while. But if you make it part of your staple diet, or if you're doing it too frequently, then any system can then move from order to chaos. So over here, obviously, if you keep eating, if you eat, let's say once in 2 months or 3 months, you know, one day, it's okay. But if you start having, you know, twice a week, suddenly you will see that it is not just about profit and numbers, it's about health risks and about fat consumption, and then it can create a heart disease. It's a very small, simple example of explaining how interactions happen. Some of these interactions will have abnormal growths. Some of the interactions will have abnormal balances. Similarly, in our systems also, same things will happen. So let's talk about another system before we come to the Zomato's example. There is something called a physical system. This is about forest fires. So what used to happen in Venezuela, you know, there used to be a lot of fires, and the government wanted to understand what can be done to, you know, actually make a policy to stop those fires. So instead of a flow chart, now they actually started following something called system dynamics, which we just talked about. So on top, can you see this fuel growth on top or left hand side? Is this visible to all?
Yeah, it's clear, very clear, no problem.
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah.
So what happens is, if you go to a forest, you know, you would realize we say forest mein aag lag gaya, ganda hai. No, it is not. In reality, it is not good or bad. It is about moderation. So in the forest, there is a natural fuel. As the fossil growth increases, you can see the fossil growth has increased. There are more trees, more plants. As there are more plants, more trees, more flora and fauna, you will see the fuel load increased. So there are a lot of variables and they're interacting. If you see fossil fuel plus fuel load बढ़ गया, whenever there is fuel load, you need to burn. There'll be more burning in the forest, and the fire intensity will increase. And when the fire intensity increases, the fire duration will also increase. And these are increasing, but there is something called decreasing. What is, if you look at the right hand side, from the fire intensity in the middle, you will see the combat efficiency has decreased. Now you will see when the combat efficiency has decreased, then I need more budget. That is the political system. If the budget is not provided on time, or the decision is not provided on time, so either the budget is the flow of money, flow of value, flow of material, and the motion. If that is not provided on time, or the decisions are delayed, then the whole system can get into a chaotic state. Like what happened in Afghanistan, whether the systems were not designed, whether they had anticipated all the scenarios, or even if they knew, there was no inclination or the budget to move forward and, you know, create a stable system over there. So first of all, even in your case, if you realize in that example, Zomato, there was an app, there was a cycle. Now they are all systems, but all systems are interacting with each other. And like we say yin and yang, okay? Yeah, we say good and evil, whatever you can call it. But in mathematical terms, we call it balance and reinforce. Any system which is not in, which is abnormally growing is not sustainable and will collapse. Any system which is not growing and totally going in the reverse direction will also collapse. So you need balance variables, counter forces to keep everything in check, like a circulatory system. Example, if I just keep growing and eating food, or my height keeps increasing, after certain times, my body will become inefficient. Okay. Similarly, whether you look at nature or in business, let's say you have a good restaurant, you have a restaurant which sells idli. Okay, you're a very famous idli person and people love your breakfast idli. But there is a peak limit to your threshold of your system. That means your kitchen. Kitchen is one area where you have n number of chefs. They might be able to handle with quality 50 orders at a time, maybe 100 orders. But if you overload it with 1 million orders or 1,000 orders, your system will collapse. And that will start working counterclockwise. What was actually creating quality will start destroying the quality. So even a simple variable, a simple change can have a negative impact on any system. So what exactly that means is we need to have how we need to measure the flow, the quality, whatever that value is within the system at every interaction point. I need to check what that value should be. What is a KPI for it? How do we do that? We'll come to it. Okay, so typically what happens is in the Zomato example or any example in the world, you just see the events. But underlying those events, there are certain patterns. You know what's been happening, and you will see through graphs and trend lines. Okay, we are growing, or we are going up and down, or we're going down and up, down and up. If you're going up and down, and down and up, down and up, that is actually a system where there is a counter force. A system which is only going up means is only growing, the R, which reinforces itself. Whenever there is up and down in a graph, actually what is happening is within the structure of the system, there is a counter force, which is actually, if one is growing, the other thing is cutting it. It could be cutting into the efficiency. It could be cutting into the information. For example, here, Zomato didn't have the information that person only has a bike, or they didn't capture that information. Had they captured that information, that could have been translated into a better experience. And obviously, so what you see on top is just the what. And what we start doing is with the what, we start replacing with the why without looking at the patterns and the internal structure, that is the circulatory flow. And when we do that, we create disasters because we look at the event and we try to make a metric out of it. So how do we move from what to when to how to why to design an interaction for better customer experience? Now, when you look back, we broke it into subsystems. After you break into subsystems, what do you think you have to do? So you broke it into 4 subsystems: the app, the customer, the delivery boy, the restaurant. Yes. Now what do you have to do? Anyone?
We have to create values at every touch points, basically.
Okay, but values at every touch point. So first you have to create a touch point.
Yes.
Is system the touch point?
In this case, yes.
No.
App is the touch point.
Every event is a touch point.
Okay.
Because user is interacting with the event. So within the mobile, there can be 20 events I have done. I searching for food, then I'm adding the food, then I am applying the discount. All of that is a sub event, which is translating into an overall experience. You see what I'm trying to tell you? Okay. So if I go here, let's become movie makers for a second. Okay, movie makers. Okay, before we go here, have you guys done this before? Have you thought about your customer interactions in this way till now? Or how many of you have? Okay. Okay, so let's try to make the movie. Scene one here, इंसान को भूख लगी, and that's why you have in the red the cue, the trigger that a person is hungry. So what is the, if you look at the green interaction or the first phase interaction, what are the events? What I'm going to do? Where is the first green arrow going?
Open the app.
Open the app. Once I open the app, I also have an expectation it should open in 100 milliseconds. So is there a value expectation here?
Yes.
Okay, that is a customer expectation. And what is your expectation as a business? That the person should open the app. He should recall my app only. Yes or no? That is the first metric for the customer and your side. Then where do you go from here?
Search the restaurant
the item based on our mood or requirement.
Yeah.
Search.
Yeah, we are search is another event, and that event can have another expectation. So what are the expectations using in search should be there? As a customer, what should be the expectation? What value expectation would a customer have while they're searching?
cheap food.
Okay. Clean तो खाएगा तब पता चलेगा. Search के वक्त. Only search event पे.
Listing out all the
Discount coupons.
Varieties, because in food app you have
Find the
lot many
restaurant.
varieties and you
Very
can
good, very good.
choose.
So there can be previous food orders, what is trending, varieties, good quality images, all of that
Variety,
experience. All of that experience, and what I like, my preferences, what my friends like, whatever they can capture. All of that values can be put as experience on the search restaurant, yes or no? Now I select an item.
Yes.
Now what should be the experience of select an item? So from business, by the way, from the business point of view, what do you want? That person should move from search to select, yes or no? That is a business KPI.
Yes.
So once you move to the select, what do you want to do?
Ease of selection, point and click.
Okay.
Order.
Select, that means you should be able to select multiple items. Ease of within tuck kiya, 3-4 add ho gaye, multiple add ho gaye. Okay. Now I go to cart. Now and then from go to cart, there you have payments. What should be the experience on the payment side?
Faster payments. Easy. Multiple options and coupons.
What is the whenever there is money involved, what is the first thing you look as a human?
Coupons, discounts.
No.
Safety concerns.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. पहले खाना खाओ बाद में पैसा दो. First the food has to reach the customer because he is hungry.
No, okay, that can be a business model, but I'm talking about in payments and confirm. आपको अगर मेरे को online payment करना in that context, in that event, अभी हम see we have broken down everything into event. In that event, somebody said that is right. Yes, I want discounts, but my first priority is safety concern. If I'm entering my debit card and credit card details, that can't be stolen. That is why everybody puts a lock, a visual lock sign. 128-bit, 256-bit encryption. Why? They're giving a feedback that if you have an intent to pay. Yeah, go ahead.
There can be a QR code which they can swipe straight away and pay through GPay or something.
Yes, yes. So if you have an intent, they are responding to that event in the app by saying we respect that you are giving us the order through a card and we are secure. And let's say now the problem is there is something which goes out of hand, is that this payment is interacting with a third-party gateway. Yes or no?
Yeah. Yes.
Now what happens is, let's say this third-party gateway में अगर कुछ हो गया और तुमने पेमेंट काट लिया, तुम्हें कंफर्मेशन नहीं आया बट कस्टमर का पेमेंट काट गया, ऐसा हो सकता है? That can be another scenario we can design for. I have not put that event here, but it is possible or not?
Yeah, definitely it is possible.
Okay. Similarly, now we'll keep it simple for now, and we'll do a happy scenario first. Then payments and confirmed, and once the payment is confirmed, order placed but not confirmed. So what Zomato is doing, if you look at by design, वो पहले order place करता है, but confirm नहीं करता, पैसे पहले काट लेता है. Do you think why I know it? You doing this is I know it, so that it can show it as a sale. Do you think this is right to do?
Yeah, a restaurant may or may not have that food.
Yeah, but then it will cancel. It does it, no? It cancels and says, I'll give you back the money.
Yes.
So in this system, they have simplified it for themselves, but they have actually made the customer experience bad. Because if I later on cancel, you will still leave with a bitter mouth. Okay. Why we set that expectation? But anyways, so what happened in this scene? One, there is an event. It is column is for somebody. So maybe this is a customer IT professional. And then there is an effect in our calls. And remember the rule, every cause becomes an effect, causing a further, exploring another cause. And every cause becomes another effect, causing another, cause. So it's a chain reaction. Now you can see here. What is the first effect you see? What is the first effect in the effect? Third column.
Hungry.
And hungry, and what caused hungry? Last food frequency died. Okay. What you wanted to measure as a business when a person is hungry, what should happen?
App recall.
App opening. It should open our app.
And what should be expression on the face? Whether a person is excited to open. Yes, got it. Good. Now that effect, okay, that hungry becomes the cause. So if hungry is the cause, what would that lead to?
Ordering food.
Exactly. So you can see effect has become order food. And if you want to order food, causes us to search food, and search food causes us to display accurate preferences and select food, add to cart, select payment, and you can see expected experience values. When I want to, want to order food, I should be able to first open the app under 10 milliseconds. Then when I want to search food, it should give me search food instantly, trends, past orders, discounts. When I want to display accurate preferences, it should show me even ratings and everything. And here it should measure by a metric. So during search food, it should grab visual attention. But while the person has searched, you want them to add the food. That means you should invoke a call to action. It should invoke an action. Yes or no? You should click the button add. If it is not clicking the button add, that metric is not being translated into a KPI. And similarly, if you look at the external force, because you are interacting with a third-party gateway, I need a trust lock and the instant payment. And obviously, if you look at below there is also modes of payment, multiple modes of payment. Now, when you look at this way, we only did right now order food, but then there are more interactions that are happening. So what do you think, what is the next interaction that is going to happen?
Feedback.
Customer support.
No, once you have ordered food, but you have order is placed but not confirmed.
The delivery time.
So basically the restaurant confirms the order.
So now in this movie, the third system has to come into picture, right?
Yes.
Okay, before we come there, I just want to tell you, even just from opening an app to get the food delivered, if everything is okay, when the system is in balance and you give a feedback, there are 41 interaction points. Open the app, display preferences, search food, show accurate information, select food, nudge a message, add multiple, you can order, you can add display payment options, select enable tracking of the delivery boy, where he has reached, notify when the food has been accepted, check whether the food is hot, personalized and packaged and hygienic. There are 41 interaction points. And if we are just tracking, food deliver hua ki nahi hua, we are actually looking at the tip of the iceberg. Yes or no? Totally ignored that what has been the experience at all of these levels. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So these actions. Now, let's go forward. So there are certain more events, something at the restaurant level, something at the delivery level. And for fun, I've just added friends because you share it on a social network or tell your friends ki ye hua tha, you know, with that customer, sorry, with that product or with that company. I hate it. I don't like it, whatsoever. Now, if you look at the legend on top, we did the green one where I had taken the order but not confirmed it, just taken the payment. Now comes the purple interactions. And here, keep in mind, assuming that everything is going well. So the values are mentioned on the right. What are the values here? What do you care about? What's there on the right hand side? I mentioned below.
Warm, yummy food, speed,
hygiene, courteous staff. Yes. So now what happens is once the order has been placed but not confirmed, after the payments I go and check the restaurant. So the purple will go and say, check the inventory. What is the order queue? Maybe the restaurant already has 10 orders, few who are sitting at his place or her place, and few from other online systems. So how big is the order queue? What is the ETA confirmed? The accepted time has to be confirmed and given back to the customer because he or she is waiting. When will I get my order? Is it only dependent upon a restaurant interaction?
The distance.
No.
The distance of the restaurant.
It also
Distance the delivery boy has to travel and availability of the delivery boy.
Yeah. Yes. So delivery. So now there's another system. Not only you have to send a request to the restaurant, the app has to send a request to the delivery boy. Who is the nearest delivery boy or girl? What is the delivery location? Is there a delivery queue there? Are they already have 1 or 2 orders they're delivering? How much time will that take? What is the distance of the delivery to the restaurant? And from the restaurant, what is the distance to the customer's house? What is the mode of transport? So restaurant ETA time plus the delivery system time, when you combine, then only you can give the total ETA to the customer. Yes or no?
Yes.
So in that Zomato case where we all said, oh, there were a lot of empathy. If you realize, and I have designed this by just looking at that 10 lines. Okay. That's what, just give you a context. But when you design like this, then you understand where they failed. So what do you think in that story now? What they didn't capture? It is very obvious now.
Is it customers' expectation of how much in the least time that they should deliver?
No, I could have set a fair expectation. Sorry, sir, because of delivery boy coming on cycle, he has lost his job, but he's a superhero. We have provided him even a job during the COVID times. Please bear with us, and if you can wait for 10 more minutes, we'll give you 5% more discount. We could have done that also. That would have made you more happy. So where they failed, where the system failed?
Delivery queue, I guess.
Yes. So they should know the mode of transport and the delivery location. And had they taken this system into picture, plus the restaurant system, they would not have made this mistake. That does not mean that they are bad. I am just telling, says every company wants to do good. In fact, most. It is when we capture linear interactions or oversimplify things, we get into trouble. So the first thing is you break your system. You break your complete customer journey into interaction of subsystems. And in those subsystems, then you imagine how many events are there. And then in those events, then you can have interactions. And obviously interaction could change. Now, abhi ye stable state pe hai. जैसे order नहीं आ right now 41 था, वो 41 से आराम से 80, 100 जा सकता है. Why? Because customer can call the restaurant, customer can call the support center, customer can raise a query on the Zomato app, customer can call the delivery boy, and while delivery boy, customer ने delivery boy को गाली दी, उसी वक्त customer restaurant से भी लड़ रहा है, restaurant वाला delivery से लड़ रहा है, and Zomato is trying to coordinate all of them and trying to put pressure on all of them. It is possible?
Yes, sir.
No? So everything is an interaction. So these scenarios, these possibilities, the scope of scenario field is nothing but interactions, and you have to capture those interactions. That doesn't mean you have to capture every interaction in the world. No, it's impossible. But some are reasonable, likely, simple interactions whose interaction mapped to an cause and effect of an event, KPI of the value should always be there. So obviously now red wala legend pa jate, red flow. Okay, you had taken my money and you had confirmed the order, you had put 15 minutes. Now suddenly customer is calling the chat, it is calling the support is saying then you hear an IVR, you are in the queue, you're getting more irritated. Then there's a standard script, hello sir, how can I help you? Then okay sir, let me look at it. Sir, I'm talking to the delivery boy. Then वो delivery से interact कर रहा है, and maybe delivery बोल रहा है कि you know कि sir मैं क्या करूँ, मैं तो आ रहा हूँ, मेरे तो 2 order है, and all of the hot there, but वो background में चल. But as a CEO, you have to design for all those systems and ask yourself, what if? What if this happens, then how are we handling it? And then move from what if to a stage of what's next. That is the action plan. That if the person calls because customers don't move like the way you want. For example, you can be in a McDonald's manager and customer standing in the queue waiting for their turn. But customer can directly go and say that my son is crying, and they can come to the manager and say, please, can you give us pretty soon, because we have to rush to the hospital and my son is crying. So what will you say? You cannot say, sir, this is not out of our policy. You will be empathetic and you will try to accommodate. Yes or no?
Yes.
What does that mean? That means that systems are not linear. Customer don't care about the system. And why the hell they should care also? They are free. They're paying you. Your systems have to be responsive to the value, capture their interactions, and translate into customer experiences. At the end of the day, you're not selling a product or a service. What you're selling is so if you combine all of these 41 steps, there's just a happy day scenario. But obviously it can go negative. So your real job is to break into subsystems. And into subsystems, you try to understand what are the negative points, what values are there and what values are not there, and then try to find where customers are struggling. Okay. And once you know that where customers are struggling, you have the data, right? And then you have to interpret the data. That can be an emotional interpretation, behavioral interpretation, by physically looking at those customers, by giving it for testing, giving it for A/B. And then also check your beliefs. Because mental models, our beliefs creates a barrier. Ki aise hi theek hai. Always ask why it should be like this. Can it be 2 times faster? Can it be 5 times better? Don't think inside the box. What is inside the box is accepting the system. Can I design a much better linear interaction? Can I shorten this linear interaction? Can instead of 41 steps, which we did here, can this 41 be in 10 steps? So once you start thinking that way, you will create multiple interactions. Okay. So now let's pause for 5-10 minutes and try to understand that what we have encompassed till now. So any doubt, any questions? Guys, make it interactive. तुम लोग को मजा आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा?
Nikhil, I'm Manjunath here. Is excellent. You are giving a very deep insight.
Yes, excellent, sir.
I have one basic question for you. If there are a number of people, how do you manage it, Nikhil?
If
there's a group of people, let's say, if there is a group of people, and now I have to convince all of them, right, for a decision. How do you design it? It becomes a more complicated and sophisticated. Can you throw some light on that?
Okay, that's a different topic. You're talking about customer interaction, but if you're talking about how to create influence, there are two things. One is a data-based influence, and the other is data plus story-based influence. And nothing is far better than showing the emotional impact. The emotional impact, that is the final outcome. For example, if you look at it, I could have started directly. I would tomorrow even cover, I will show you some cases here of modeling. I could have directly started with, there is this system interactions and all. No, I started with a human story. So what you can do is either you can start with a story and then look at the data, how big the magnitude of the impact is, and amplify that. Or if there is not a story now, you can actually envision that story, do scenario planning. And for the scenario planning from the human equation, from a heart to heart, move to data. So heart is the impact, the pain, and from there you can build a consensus of how that pain can be measured. And then you can come to a common consensus of what can be solved. But again, this is a very fuzzy question what you've asked, because I don't know the context here. So it could also be that when you are trying to brainstorm, are you trying to force your opinion, or are you trying to have an open collaborated discussion? And for that you need to
yes, I had to sell my product ultimately,
you have to
I had to sell my product to the group. The group is a decision makers. That's a tricky thing,
So that depends. So I don't know your product. So maybe, if you can throw some light later on that, because that is not part of this. We are talking about designing interactions. What you're talking about right now is sales. Sales pitch is a different topic, not customer interaction. But in a B2B sales, you do have multiple decision makers, right? We call them decision-making unit.
Yeah.
And in any decision-making unit where you have multiple stakeholders, let's say a decision maker, let's say an influencer, let's say, a curist, let's say someone who basically contradicts, you can't please everyone. But typically, the main decision maker and main influencer, you should have at your side. So what value proposition do they care about? You should start a story from there. So we will talk about values, but what value proposition do they care about is something very important. So somebody, let's say a CEO, let's say you have a product which does marketing, sales automation, but your CEO cares about a metric of what is the growth of sales that we can generate. And maybe your chief marketing officer takes care about how simple the tool is to use. So then both the values are important for different personas. And can you measure that simplification journey, what the chief marketing officer is talking about, and translate it? So to get people on board, specifically in any B2B deal, you need to convince first the influencer, even before reach the decision maker. And the number of personas who are involved, if you can address, if they have something, some as a takeaway, if each of them have some takeaway to ponder upon, reflect upon, and the major decision maker and influencer have a big impact to actually seize upon. So somebody to ponder upon and somebody to seize upon. Then you can actually create a better sales conversion strategy. Okay. So
Yeah.
you have to find it out that for each persona, what is the value that matters? Are you in any way contradicting that value? Are there any other competitors they're looking at? And okay, so it is this will be individualized and personalized per industry level and even per level. So
Yeah,
yes, but that is part of sales.
What you suggested, I think that's a big takeaway.
Which one? What is it?
You said story and make an emotional impact. I think that is a good takeaways, right?
Yes. So
Because-
any emotional impact is very important. If I get time tomorrow, I'll cover a little bit of that also. So any emotional impact, if you have, and for that, if you look at it, customer first, intent, clarity, and empathy. But what does that mean, right? So if you look at any movie, most movies have this kind of a, hold on. Why am I not able to expand my screen? Wait, can this be moved? Yeah. So if you see over here, if you want to do customer first, okay, have an intent, clarity, and this can be for different personas. You first start with an introduction, the build up, problem, resolution, ending. But again, you're making one mistake here. This is what a typical salesman will tell you. Okay. What again, I told you, everything is non-linear. It doesn't happen that you have a script and you try to go and work in a script. You can have hundreds of stories built, but when you are in the real action, people might have a very different way of conversing. So gauging your audience, gauging who is the decision maker, gauging who is the influencer is very, very important, and listening to them first. Start with, you try to give them analogies. Let's say they'll say, we are looking for this because I am, we are fed up of this. So keep listening in deep, looking into their eyes and acknowledging, aha, yes, very true, I understand. And then don't intervene them, but in between, give an analogy. You know what? I'm so excited because we had a similar customer like yours. So a character. That character is something that is relatable. जो उसके जैसे ordinary person है, who has faced the problems, analogies. We had a similar person who had this problem. And we went upon, and don't talk about how they became amazing, but you have to participate in that struggle journey. And we went upon understanding. And you know what? Even for us, it was a realization. It was a learning that the struggle was hard because these were the variables that mattered to them. These were the customer journey metrics mattered to them. So we sat together because that shows empathy. It's not that you have just directly went and solved the problem. It doesn't happen like that. And then go collectively. That means you're making them participate into an analogy, the character. Who is somebody like him or her? We sat together, we brainstormed together, and yes, when the execution came, we gave them the best results possible. So I think we can work together. So you can have a 30-second message, you can have a 2-minute message, you can have a 5-minute message. Something that they can recall all their life and something that they can recognize. So this also covers, that also requires you to understand mindfulness and how emotional intelligence works. Because it is just not about the content. It is also at the emotional level, how you are interacting. Okay. So I hope this gives you a little bit of idea of your question. Okay. This I will try to cover tomorrow that. But coming back to our point, any doubt till here?
Nikhil, can I provide access to your the PPTs?
Sorry, this is intellectual property of Startup XY. We cannot share PPTs of our PPTs.
Oh, is it? We thought it's for required for a lifetime. There's so much in that.
I'm so sorry.
Deliberate.
No, we can't share the PPTs. This is intellectual property of Startup XY.
Okay.
But yes, I'm ready to share all the learnings with you guys.
Fine.
So let's come back to our discussion. What I want you to do is to design interaction. What I want you to do is whatever you have learned today, I want you to go and break it into subsystems, break it into events, define your variables and values what are important. And we will then further explore it. So can we design interactions? Definitely we can. And every interaction has a story. It is multi-sensory, touch, hear, feel, and it has an interaction, that is a play. And all of these three are very important to create value. I don't know whether you guys have been taught personas and how to design personas, but I'm assuming that has been done. So let's say you have a persona or a user whom you have to cater to. By the way, persona design is more of a psychological science and it has got a lot of psychological tools in it. But let's say you know how to design a persona or your user or your customer. Customer and user are two different personas. Or like you said that there are a lot of decision makers. And evaluate certain attributes. They like something. And that is their values. And they all have a behavior. And there can be a scope of multiple behaviors. Somebody can be, who is very excited, somebody who is very frustrated, somebody who is very eager. So what I want to do is break it into subsystems, have your events, and then try to design behaviors of your personas, how they will interact and play with the system. What values they're expecting at each event, and what values they're expecting at each event. Okay. How that translates into experience, because that is what we will be designing tomorrow. So if you look at iterative customer value, first is that you have a persona. Those persona or those users have a certain value care about. Overall value, what they want. And one is the value at every event level. And there are certain actions, okay, that they will take to click that value. For example, when I was hungry, I took was what? The action I took. Then there is this system has a flow. Okay, what all I am interacting with, and what is a trigger. So even to interact with, are my buttons clear? Or if I'm a physical system, is everything visible in my store or not? Or if I'm a B2B company, a software company, what are those frontiers of interaction the customer will experience? What are the backend stages and the response? And then last is the measurement, where you will have emotions, metrics, KPIs that are mapped to those metrics at every event level, recall, and the story. So typically what they say is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. But in reality, it's the interaction with enable organization minute by minute. So looking at this, tell me, can you all design your system?
Sir, we can try it because it's so much complications there in the system designing and minute to minute interactions.
Yes, it is. So how do you do that? Is one trick is visualize like a filmmaker, as if you are the customer. Okay. And then visualize मैं कहाँ interact करूँगा system में, subsystems में, क्या events में मैं touch करूँगा, उस event से मेरी expectation क्या है, expectation लिखो. and then play with the system. He make bad
Can
customer.
you give some examples of a product company better? Means like there is some reading material or something that we can read a bit more about it and examples so that we can design it better.
No, I've given you one example of Zomato. There are a lot of examples, but if you start reading them, you will be wasting more time. So I'll give you some examples here. Because I don't want you to make a complicated system. I want you to get started with it. Hold on, let me just.
Nikhil,
It's better
Nikhil, hi.
if you tell us the visualizations process so that it will help, because there are a lot many startup and some are product based, some are software based, some are B2B, some are in B2C.
Right. So what I'm trying to tell you is break your system into subsystems. So for example, let's say this is Ryanair. Okay? So Ryanair is a company which actually today now Indigo follows in India, is a low cost airline. How they became a low cost airline is so how do airlines interact? Okay, let's put it here. Okay. So airlines, so for one is the airline, other is the airports, third can be the customers. Okay, and again in their company they have yes, in their company there is a system of marketing, finance, okay, sales, and they again are they all are interacting with each other. There are certain events happening at all of here. Each event is translating into a certain goal. So first you define the goal. Let's say you want to grow at a certain rate. But again, this is dependent upon the Civil Aviation Authority. That is a number of flight hours they can have. It is also dependent upon the customer who are booking and why they should book from them. If you look at the airports, and so if you look at it here, this is an example of Ryanair. Okay, it's a service company now, physical airports. So they actually have put what is the goal they want. That is the passenger journeys they want, how many routes they want to cover, what airports they will go to. And then they have tried to simulate if I go from here and then I go here, what can happen? So, and how does that impact my income statement? So I don't want you to make such a complex one, okay? Try to understand the point. Similarly, this is a manufacturing one. In the manufacturing one, you can have machines. The machines, kitne time tak chalega, number of hours of production. Half cost. Okay, if I just expand here, the raw material cost, the operating cost, and how all of them impact the revenue. So I am not telling you to go this way. What I am telling you to do is, like I made a Zomato example. You break your systems into subsystems. Keep it, don't make 10 subsystems. Make it 4 or 5, that's it. Make all the events in the subsystems and try to map it. And tomorrow I will give you more. I'll teach you more, because this today was just 1.5 hours, and this topic, frankly, designing interactions is more than a week job. But tomorrow I will be covering more examples of how do you define the persona, what are the values that matter, and beyond, what are the tools you could use, and how you could map a physical store to a pizza store to an e-commerce site and define those interactions. And then even how you could do scenario planning in it. But what I want today is, so if I tell you to go and start reading system dynamics today, you are going to get more confused. That is why I've simplified this for you. So what I want you to do is just go and break it into subsystems. Can you break your customer journey into subsystems? Yes or no? Is that possible or not?
Yes.
Possible.
Right, yeah.
In those subsystems, can you define the number of events that can happen? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Can those events be defined into what events are happening at the back end and what is happening at the front end? Front end मतलब जो customer को दिख रहा है. मैंने जूता ऑर्डर किया, मेरे को सर्च जूता दिखा, ऐड जूता दिखा, या मैं फिजिकल स्टोर पे गया, मेरे को शू दिखा, या मेरे को वहाँ शू नहीं दिखा, मैंने ऑर्डर किया. और बैक एंड पे हो सकता है you're going to warehouse or you're automating there to the other back end. So you can define this. And can you define a value for any of them?
We can try.
Yeah, especially for the customer, we can define
Okay.
some value.
So tomorrow we will values. So I will teach you that what are the types of values. There are only 14 values in the world, and any value you give can be mapped to those values. And tomorrow we will also learn how to detect patterns in a system. There are very limited number of patterns in any system in the world, and you can detect faults and failures through that also. So tomorrow we'll be redesigning it. Today we just looked at the glimpse of it. Tomorrow we will be going from a Zomato example to other store example, and what covered here. We will be touching all of these. We will be covering the persona, then what is a value, what are the actions, subsystem I've already told you, and then we will be even covering the measuring and the metrics part. What I mentioned here, what I'll also cover is how to test that system. And then I'll cover something a little bit as leaders you should be aware about is emotional ability to handle customers. and we'll stop there. So today go and design your system. Obviously, we will not look at those, maybe we can take 1 or 2 examples of what you have designed tomorrow, and we can start from there. This field is a customer interaction is a part of system dynamics, if you want to know. It's everywhere around you in the world. It's just that we don't use it. Before we leave, one example, let me show you. So like one of our companies is MarvelNut, where we teach people how to think, how to do imagine and how to invent. Now here also on this website, there's a tool called Hotjar. How many of you know about Hotjar?
I'm hearing it for the first time.
Okay.
Same here.
What Hotjar does is, so what I'm telling you is not in the air, okay? We can do it for a physical store, do it for a warehouse, for a production unit, and you also do it for a website. Now I am saying that everything is an event. So person can have an intent. They can go to different pages on the site, and they can go and explore different courses also on the site. But the problem is, there are multiple interactions. How would I understand what are the interacting? I can get people in my laboratory and see how they interact, how they get excited. But still that is not that we do, but that is not a fair enough replacement of the real world dynamic. So there is something which I'm running, which might is integrated to one of the tools called Hotjar. There are a couple of tools like this. So every customer that is coming on my site, their actions are being recorded. Now what happens is, and from which country they are coming. So even at the country level, I can, for example, in Japan, people don't write hi on the left hand side or on the right hand side. They write, they don't write, they write on the left hand side or not right hand side, they find it rude. It's okay. So to give you one more context. So how are you going to be careful about the cultural orientation, mental mindset of the customer? So if I play, be played, and I can see where they making sense or not?
Yes,
Hello?
sir, we lost your voice. We lost your voice.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, so what we have done is we have mapped our MarvelNut to let's say all the events which customers are clicking to. So for example, if I play my here, so I can know where the struggle happened. Right now I was talking about struggle, yes or no?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So now I can see, okay, customer ने मेरा site खोला, ये recording चल रही है उसकी. Can you see on the right, click किया, visit किया, click किया, can you see?
Yeah.
Now I
Yes,
can see
yes,
the
we can
mouse.
see.
Can you see mouse गया पहले who we are पे. Then I can say, okay, उसने click किया. अब वो scroll कर रहा है. Then I can see, okay, it went down. Then it is visited which page. And if the person is spending a lot of time on a page, they are reading. But if they are not reading and if the mouse is going like this, then it means that they're actually confused or they're trying to find an intent which I'm not satisfying. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you can, whether they're mobile users, returning users, new users, I can go and check everybody's intent. And I can know, this is, so there are 102 recordings here of customers. Now imagine 102 recordings of customers. How much data I have to understand interactions? Lot of data, right? So people are going there. Then I see, okay, this guy is doing something here. So maybe he's reading about, he's trying to understand the image. This person is waiting here, but he doesn't cancel. So that means he's looking for some information. Then suddenly he reads some data. Now I'm waiting whether my KPI is click, whether they'll click or not. So if they click, that means my value is realized to a certain level. Now you got what I'm trying to do here?
Yeah.
Okay. So now these interactions, and then there are heat maps. Okay. So if I can go here, there are also heat maps which tell me where people are concentrated looking at. So there are 510 page views from 23rd July. That means, 500 page, at least 100 people have visited this site in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I can see now most people have clicked where? Where can you see?
Course.
Courses.
Yes. Yes. But it is still 37% conversion. So there is a metric. So I'll say, oh, why not more? And maybe out of the 37, 10 must have taken our course, one of these courses. Okay. Now, similarly, for our other companies, like we have an incubator startup XY, we do it. Similarly, for our AI company, we do it. So what I'm trying to tell you is, what I'm telling you is not something which is just on paper. What I'm telling you is something which multinational corporations use. Then there's a software called AnyLogic. So AnyLogic is uses right from railways, defense, healthcare, business process. You can do simulation of anything. But the simplest form is how you could beautifully explain it. And the explanation is you should know whom are you building for, what values are they looking for, what are the journey event points where for that value to be realized. Let's say I wanted to eat food. For that I have to search food. I have to order food. I have to wait for my food to be delivered. While waiting also, maybe you can give me a snake and ladder to play, for example. And then I need hygienic food. Actions are mapped to systems. And then they can be emotional response. So now you have ample visualization. You also, I've given you an example, not only this, I've shown you a live example of our own product only. Plus I've given you an airline example and of manufacturing. Now, are you confident enough to create 4 or 5 subsystems and map events and at every event a value, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. So let's continue tomorrow. Any doubts till what we have covered today?
In the one, just one, what you shown, Orjar, can we integrate with the mobile app also or only for the web app?
Yeah, it integrates with mobile app also. And there are many tools. There are
And
tools
if
for
there any user intent, we have to take it since we are capturing the user screen. Do we need to get the user permission for that, or?
yeah. You need to based on you have to always inform a user that allow cookies. For example, they do that. We are tracking your clicks. Similarly, if it's a physical store, you need to do that. So you can physical store also are there, but I will say don't do camera tracking and all. That's not good. What you can do is there's something called ethnography study and empathy maps. So how many of you are aware of? I'll cover that tomorrow, by the way. So you can even map physical store experiences and see physically a manager is there or a person there and observing how people are looking and feeling the product. What are their mood reactions? Whether they pick or they drop the product, what are they do? But how aware of ethnography and empathy map? You should be if you have already done persona analysis and all. Has that been taught? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So I hope you enjoyed today's session, guys. Please give a feedback. Sachin, maybe you can collect the feedback.
Excellent, very eye-opening.
Thank you. So system dynamics is one field. If you actually really incorporate, it will change your life. I'm not joking. It is a non-linear way of thinking, and you can also obviously that is not part of this course, but you can also do a lot of disruptive innovation with it by understanding the nuances of what is going wrong, and you can create more disruptive products. But how to think is not part of our agenda, so we will not cover that. But all the best, and tomorrow we will continue. Any last questions?
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Salome here.
Hi.
Yeah, Nikhil, I wanted to check with you if you, take up mentorship opportunities or consulting, Ali Consulting.
Yeah, we do. I mean, so we also have an incubator called Startup XY.
Okay.
So yes, we do consulting right from companies to startups. We do it.
Okay. So if I have to do that, should I just check your website and get in touch?
Yes, you can touch the website, or you can anybody wants to get in touch, maybe you can ask Sachin and you can take my number.
Sure.
Okay. Or
Yes.
you can go to website. Yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank
The
you.
next session to just break out, since Nikhil is saying tomorrow. It's on 20th.
No, sorry. I mean, yeah.
20th.
20th.
See you then. And
no, that is good.
Yeah.
So you have one more day to think and design your interactions.
Yeah, definitely it would be great.
Yes. Many people, when I talk about interaction, they think it is communication, but when they see what is interaction, तुमको shock लग जाता है. But
लगा shock, काफी अच्छा लगा.
Right. So you can even design. By the way, you can use this interaction to design the flow of your business model. Because right now you have just put in the business model, you would have put, this is the value I give, this is what I do, these are but they're not interconnected, and everything in this universe is interconnected. So you have to respect that and give that interconnectivity a chance to thrive and be organic and measure it. Okay.
All right. Can we use this interaction model for suppose I have a physical store, so I can use this model, my store, customers, and my back system, and all these events are.
The good part is system dynamics. As this customer interaction field, I'm putting in business context, I'm calling it customer interaction. The bigger field is system dynamics. It is used everywhere in the world, right from evolution to genetics to your spread of COVID, to designing new economic policies, to European Union designing foreign policy, to designing products and services. You can use system dynamics everywhere. Okay, so Yes, you can. It initially, because we are not trained like that. हम लोग को क्या सिखाया गया है? Input, process, output. और वो so the problem is to reorient our psychology and thinking and conscious mind. But that takes a little bit. Once you get a hang of it, it is actually easy. Systems are complicated. I mean, don't get me wrong. Systems are pretty complicated when they get into chaos, chaotic order. But there is a sanity to measurement. There is a way of designing it, like I'm teaching you, so it can be done.
So, shall we close for today?
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right.
Bye.
See you on Friday, all you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Sachin. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.